In the early 2000s, I served on the grand jury in Multnomah County, and one of the cases that we witnessed was a murder from a group of homeless youth that had killed another member of the homeless community. And the murder took place in what's called the McLaughlin Caves, which are not really caves. It's kind of under the viaduct of McLaughlin. But if you're driving across the Ross Island Bridge, eastbound, and you see the big Victorian house, you look over to the right and there's a space underneath there, and that's where some of the homeless were living. And anyway, the case itself was pretty horrifying, and I think about it a lot. All of the accused murderers actually came in and were witnesses. They don't have to do that, but they chose to, which is pretty interesting, because every single one of them described the murder scene as actually the police did and the DA did, with one difference. Every one of them said that they were horrified to sit back and witness their peers stabbing this person to death and then rolling their body down into the brambles, which is where it was actually found. The story itself is actually more horrifying. What had happened is that the accused, the person who was ultimately murdered by the cohort of the homeless, he was accused of burning a homeless youth, basically setting her on fire, and she died. Now, whether or not he did, I don't know. But anyway, they had come to the conclusion that this older man did. So they detained him in downtown and they walked him across the Ross Island Bridge. And so, and he doesn't have an escape. What's he going to do? Jump into the Willamette? So what's horrifying to me is that that's a heck of a walk, actually. I mean, it's not a huge walk, but he is caged by the youth that carry him from downtown across the Ross Island into the McLaughlin Caves, and then they all stabbed him. That's the interesting thing. Every one of them believes that they did not. Every one of them described exactly the same scene. They were horrified to sit back and watch their peers stab this person to death and roll them into the brambles. However, the forensic evidence demonstrated that every one of them participated. Every one of them had a knife, and every one of them participated. So I think a lot about that. I think a lot about that because, as I like to say it, there is an implicit plan A. The plan A is that we're going to have a family, but that doesn't always work out. And so if that doesn't work out, people begin entertaining a plan B. And the plan B would only be on their mind if plan A isn't working, okay? So I think we know the statistics on this. There's a guy named Alan Graham. He runs Community First here in Austin. He says in their experience, the greatest number one reason for homelessness is a catastrophic failure of family. And a lot of the people that end up on the streets sort of roll out of the foster care system. That's why we end up having so much youth. So that's not the only reason. But anyway, here's the thing, is that their plan A didn't work. Maybe their plan A is that their biological parents would participate in their lives, but they don't. So the half-baked plan B is foster care. That doesn't exactly work either. And then the half-baked plan C becomes the creation of like a feral community on the streets. And so what was also interesting about this case is that the DA said there's a social cachet among the youth who live on the streets. The longer they stay on the streets, the more prestige and influence they have. So they are actually disincentivized to seek housing alternatives because that's their street family. So anyway, I think a lot about that because it's interesting in the context of homeless communities, but it's actually true for a lot of us. I operate in the space of creating alternatives so people can create their own little like funky communities. You know, they're formerly known as like intentional communities, and yet all of those people are doing it because plan A didn't work. And that journey from getting from plan A to where they are now is actually a really interesting one. And a lot of people have a hard time speaking to it. They hold on to sort of the toxic vestiges of plan A and they bring it into plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E. It's kind of a interesting thing. So it does make me think a lot about like the role of governance and stewardship to sort of cleanse that, palate, if you will, to make sure that you're not bringing into the into the streets, if you will, whatever toxicity and violence had led you to be there in the first place. So, this is my caution about self-governing homeless communities, man. Unless they are absolutely ruthlessly honest about their motivations, they run the risk of replicating the same dynamics that sort of ratcheted and echoed through their lives. However, if they are committed to really bottoming out on that, they actually can be really good. And here's why. I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery since 1990. One of the benefits of being a dopeless hope fiend, as they say. I never shot dope, by the way. I was a drunk. But one of the benefits of being clean is you can see through people's BS, especially if you've done the hard work, the internal work. And you can see it and you can speak it. And it's truth. It's like it spatters on their skin. They're like, I don't want to hear that. And I'm like, well, but that's a hard truth you're going to have to accept, right? So anyway, it was in that context that I thought a lot about this, I've thought a lot about this thing that I experienced when I was on that jury, man. All of these kids, they thought that they were innocent and they witnessed a murder. In truth, they all participated. But it doesn't make you think. I wouldn't say so did the people who watched the man getting marched across the bridge and down McLaughlin. But kind of, right? Like, what is the role that we play in our own communities, And we sit in our cars and we think, oh, that's probably okay. Those guys are probably all just on a nice little walk. And that guy was getting marched to his death, and it was like not a good one. And who even knows if he was guilty? We'll never know. But that was like 20 something years ago, and it's worse now, as my brother details. I mean, it's quaint. The story is quaint by contemporary terms. That's nuts to me. I feel like we're going to have to get involved in our own communities, and to expect to outsource it to others just isn't going to fly. It isn't working, obviously. So I believe that we can put together an alternative. We just got to do the heavy, deep work, and not everybody's cut out for it. It's easy to be a critic, man. Everybody's a critic, but I'd say a lot of people don't have the chops to get out and actually do the thing, which is okay because it doesn't take a lot to make a big difference. So it's New Year's Day. It's like 70 degrees. It's not a cloud in the sky. Hey, Texas.